Let's talk about mental health, right? Mental health, very important, and it's very close to me. Not only have I had two of my male cousins commit suicide, God bless their, souls. Very tough time in our life, but I also went through my own challenges of anxiety and depression about 8 years ago now, where I was on antidepressants and I was still fucking depressed, right? So go figure. And it was staggering that about sort of just as COVID was starting, about kind of maybe a year or so ago now, I was at a friend's house and it was kind of about 6 or 7 of us, and it was just kind of drinking during the night. And at the end, we're kind of around the coffee table talking, and we just got talking about depression and stuff like that. And in my line of work, it was kind of interesting to talk about, mindset and depression as such. And it was staggering that it was like, out of the 7 people that were there, 6 of them had been on antidepressants or are still on antidepressants. Some of these people were, successful businessmen that own restaurants, and, kind of socialites and Insta famous kind of people. And it was kind of like, wow, it's kind of surprising. But it was a surprise, but it was not a surprise, if that kind of makes sense. Because, the statistics in Australia, that we have on average 60,000 attempts in Australia for suicide. And, it was only the other day that we had record numbers to Lifeline, 3,500 calls to Lifeline on urgent assistance on, suicides and just having those stressful moments that you feel that there's no way out. So, it's a hot topic right now. And on average, before this pandemic, there was about 9 Australians a day commit suicide. 9. So, it's very serious. And I can speak from experience that it's very hard to understand unless you've been there, right? And, my dad sort of had a bit of depression when he was younger, but not so much as the extent I've had. He had it in his own way, right? And it's hard to understand when you haven't been through it. And that's where a lot of friends and family members will be like, what's wrong with you? Like, he's being weird, he's so emotional, he's up and he's down and all that kind of stuff. And, it's very important to know that it's a real thing. It's a fucking real thing, and we call it the black dog. And think of it like this, it would be kind of easier to kind of relate now that we're all going through these challenging times. Think of like your worst day during these lockdowns and, COVID and all that kind of shit. Think of like, you just felt life sucked. You felt there was no way out. Think of that, times it by 10, okay? And then after a couple of days, times it by another 10, where you don't even want to get out of bed for days and weeks. And, when you go and meet people, you feel like you've got to hide something because you're depressed and you feel so sad, and you feel like this, but you've got to try and be like, and it's draining to try and fake it. And it's difficult and challenging to tell people how you feel because, again, you're going to be judged, unfortunately, especially in Australia, we have tall poppy syndrome and many people are judged. And it's becoming a lot better. It's not weak to speak. And we have Talk to Me, Bro, that's run by Luke. We have, Are You Okay Day, which is amazing. But Are You Okay Day, in my opinion, should be every single day. And, I'm really in touch with my emotions, and speaking out about how you feel is very important. And we all go through challenging times. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. We all go through this, especially through these challenging times. So what I can say is from my experiences, from my personal experiences going through, I'll talk about, but also dealing and helping with people that have gone through depression, anxiety, and how I get them out. And I think it's been amazing. Not only have I gone through it, but I've also learning counseling and psychology, and I'm a certified life coach. And it's pretty amazing the depth of the brain, the mind. It really, really just gets me going of just the depth of it. And I thought I would never get out. 8 years ago, I thought I would never fucking get out. And it was like every day was hell. I wanted to commit suicide. I remember I was in so much pain. My mind, I was living at the time in Cronulla and the 7th story, overlooking the whole beach. It was beautiful. And I couldn't be happy. It was so fucked. And my mind was telling me, jump over the building. Fuck this, it's fucked. Just jump over the building. And I've become scared. And I got anxiety and I was having panic attacks. And what I can say is that looking in hindsight, I kind of taught myself how to be depressed. You see, my depression kind of stemmed off a relationship where I found out a girlfriend at the time was cheating on me and so much more. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And my mind kind of spiraled out of control. Like, how the fuck could she do this? And I kind of saw some things on her phone between her and other guys and all that kind of shit. And, I love this girl. I wanted to marry this girl, and looking back, I was like, why did I want to? I don't know. I was in love. But anyway, so looking at it, I remember now that I know it takes 21 days to form a habit and 90 days to form a new belief. And I remember, like, for the first 21 days, I'd dwell on it and I couldn't get my mind off it. How could she do this? I was fixated on this. That created new habits. Then before too long, after 90 days, now I have new beliefs. And when you live in this time of just non-stop depressed, anxiety, stress thoughts for 21 to 90 days, you have now created neurological pathways and the hardware of now how to be depressed. It's like you have now made subconscious beliefs on how to be depressed. And now this has become you. You've just created a new identity that you are now anxious and depressed, because it takes a minimum of 21 to 90 days to create this kind of way. Minimum. If you do it for years, obviously you'll be chronically depressed. So, and then your thoughts, once you've done the 90 days, your thoughts are now, the automatic thoughts are depressed thoughts. And once your thoughts are negative, it will create the negative emotions, which then your negative emotions will give you the feelings of how you feel. And then your negative feelings will give you your behaviors and attitudes, which then will lead to your results in life, right? So it's imperative that we change it, that we change it. I highly suggest very early. Now, when you go through a challenging time, definitely sit there and spend some time, whether it's a day or a week, 2 weeks, to go through the motions of being depressed, being really sad. Allow yourself to feel those emotions. They're called feelings for a reason. They're meant to be felt. They're not meant to be taking drugs and, drinking and all that kind of shit. You're meant to feel them. But I highly recommend that don't go up to 21 days of feeling this way. Force yourself to focus on other things. Force yourself to go out there and speak to people. Force yourself to do a sport, right? And don't allow yourself to spend those 21 days to dwell, okay? Dwelling will create the depression and the anxiety. So remember, a lot of people that they're depressed and angry and anxious, they've created the neurological pathways. They have a highway to anxiety and depression and a dirt track to happiness and fulfillment, because they've trained themselves to be that way. But you also know the people that they have a highway to being happy and have high energy and motivation, and they have a dirt track to depression and anxiety and sadness. It's very hard for them to feel depression or anxiety, because they live and they've created this emotional state, this emotional being, where it's a part of them. It's their identity to be this way. So if you're going through a challenging time, know in that instant, okay, I know how this works. I know how the grief cycle works. Through, number one is the event. I'm going to have some shock. I'm going to have some denial. And, I'm going to have some, that stress. And then you go to number two, you're going to have that anger, that disbelief, and that anxiety and that stress. Then you're going to go to number three, and you're going to be in that time where you're you're bartering, where you're trying to make meaning of the situation. How did this happen? Why did this happen? How could she do this to me? Then you'll go to 4 and you'll be in the depression, the low mood, the emotions, the roller coaster before you get to acceptance. Now, the quicker we can go from the event, from the shock, through the anxiety, through the anger, through the bargaining, trying to find meaning, how did this happen, through to the depression, the sadness, to acceptance, the quicker we can move on. And a little trick is being in the present moment. Learning how to be in the present moment, the power of now. Now, if you haven't yet, this book behind me, it's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Either read it or put it on one of your audiobook lists. Such a powerful book, really changed my life, The Power of Now. So if you think about it in the present moment, think about right this second between me and you. Nothing else matters, right? Your bills that you have to pay don't matter in the present moment, right? All the things that are going to happen in your future, how am I going to make my business successful? What's going to happen to my kids at school? And yada, 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 right? It doesn't exist in the present moment. Remember, depression exists in the past. Anxiety exists in the future. So you need to decide, what are you focusing on? Because as we know, where focus goes, energy flows. So what are you deciding to focus on, right? So the power is focusing on the now or an empowering future, right? You want to have a compelling, empowering future that we work towards, because it's going to give you the fire and the meaning to get out of bed and a reason to attack the day when we have some meaning and a compelling future that we're working towards. Something that's so significant that is driving us. It might be a Lamborghini, your favorite house, your dream house. Maybe it's just like my future wife and kids, right? That's enough for you to work away from your pain in your past and focus on the powerful now. You're creating a map to the future, right? That's why having goals is so important, which I highly recommend if you're going through these challenging times. Still have goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals, 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and 20-year goals that you're focusing towards. Because where focus goes, energy flows. If you're focusing on a compelling future, there's no room for doubt, anxiety, depression, right? And during this as well, you want to be focusing on gratitude. When you focus on, I say it all the time, when you focus on everything you do have, again, there's no room for doubt or anxiety, right? Just spend 10 minutes a day focusing on everything you do have and watch your whole world change. Just 10 minutes a day. And, some people might be saying, oh, Chris, I haven't got 10 minutes a day. Well, if you haven't got 10 minutes a day, you haven't got a life. So remember, depression is focusing too much on the past. Anxiety is focusing too much on the future. The power is now. When you learn the power of now, you can go through challenging times and you don't give so much stressful meaning to it, right? Because stress, anxiety, and depression, as much as you don't want to hear, it's still somewhat our fault. We have to take full responsibility for our life and everything in it. And when we focus on everything we do have and everything in it, and we take full responsibility, you will rapidly see your life change for the better.